There we go. So this is the presentation to the deaneries. As Bishop David said, the idea is one, to keep you informed, at least what we're thinking at the diocesan level, but very much want to hear your thoughts, your comments, your suggestions. So this is looking at what the diocese has spent money on going back to 2018. You can see that certainly it dropped significantly into the COVID years and has been slowly increasing since then, but we're still well below the level in 2018. Salaries and benefits at the diocesan level are down. The executive archdeacon position was eliminated. And you can see all of the costs, or almost all of the costs, have decreased from the 2018 level. But we've very intentionally been committing to and contributing to both the national and ecclesiastical province, which falls into that beyond the diocese category. We've also been intentionally giving financial support to parishes, both through our operating budget, which is what we are seeing here, but also grants out of our parish financial assistance fund, which is in addition to what we're seeing here. So while expenditures are down, so is revenue. And the fair share, which in the past was proportional giving, has decreased so that in 2025 we're at the lowest amount over the period that we're looking at. The General Synod grant has been relatively constant. In the past few years, we've had significant directed donations. Generally, they may be for things that are included in our operation budget, but they're also for things that weren't included and have to be spent on the particular purpose that we received them for. Rental income has also increased. That is from rectories in parishes that don't have resident clergy, and it does provide income to the diocese. So while our expenditures are down, our income is also down significantly, resulting in 2025 looking like it will be in a deficit position. And the deficit will probably be in the $20,000-$25,000 range, which is actually significantly better than the budget for 2025, which was about $60,000. Any comments, questions, or concerns about what's happened over the past years and kind of where we are looking like 2025 is going to end up? And as I said, if you do have it, just speak up and then I'll know. Hearing nothing, moving on. So, as I said, 2025 is looking like a 20 to $25,000 shortfall for the year, significantly better than the budget. Um, Overall, we're spending less money than was budgeted, and our income is actually increasing compared to the budget. That includes an unexpected $9,000 grant from the Diocese of New Westminster. Um, our investment income is actually not quite as good as we budgeted and hoped for. Donations significantly more than what was budgeted, but all of that really is directed donations that have to be used on a for a particular purpose. Um, Transfers to reserves are amounts that are set aside for meetings that happen on a regular basis. That includes the Lambeth Conference, which is an international gathering of bishops from around the world, which happens usually every 10 years. It includes our diocesan synod that is usually every 3 years and is being planned for next year, 2026. It includes the General Synod, which happened in 2025. The and both our diocesan and national synod, as well as the ecclesiastical province, those synods happen usually every 3 years. The provincial synod, we don't actually have to set aside any additional amount. It is fully funded by our fair share to the province, which is included in the beyond the diocese figure. And that, I think, is all I want to say about that slide. 2026. So, generally speaking, we are, in terms of our operating budget, is to do the same things that we did in 2025 with a few changes because of different events. Amount going to the national and ecclesiastical province are unchanged. Support to parish in 2026 includes a diocesan-wide CCLI license, which relieves a cost from individual parishes, as well as providing more benefits, including Bishop David to the ability to broadcast Sunday services when he is attending a parish. There's also provision for more insurance costs for those parishes that can't afford to pay their insurance premiums. We've estimated a 10% increase in insurance. Support to small and rural parishes. There's increased support expected, and that's included in the budget. Administration includes $30,000 for our diocesan synod. It is planned to be held at Chateau Nova in Peace River again in 2026. As in the past, the meeting rooms, lunch, and dinners for delegates will be covered by the diocese. Travel, breakfasts, and accommodations are the responsibility of the delegates or parishes, and billeting is available if, or is anticipated for people who want to choose that option. Episcopal resources is down from the budget, but does include from the 25 budget, but does again provide for that 10% in insurance costs. Office operations are in line with what actually happened in 2025. Travel and communications. We recognize that there's many parishes that don't have priests in their communities, and that means clergy has to travel to those parishes to provide communion on a regular basis. It's our goal that it happens at least once a month, but some of the traveling distances are very significant, and we didn't want those parishes burdened by the cost of having clergy travel there. So there's a budgeted amount to provide for that support. Salaries and benefits. This is Bishop David as well as Benita, the administrative assistant. There's a 2.9% increase for clergy, spelled out by the Council of the North, of which we're a part. We've also provided for an 8% increase to the assistant's salary, which I think is more than justified. Other expenses.
I assume that the custodian's in there too, right?
We have not paid a custodian for many years.
Oh, we prayed for her, so I just assumed she was getting paid for. Ha!
I can't comment any more than I've said. The other category, in 2025, we had a clergy conference that was actually paid for a grant that had been received back in 2024. That isn't planned for 2026. We are planning to have the camp again next summer, and it is budgeted that the income from the camp will at least offset the cost of the camp. If that doesn't happen, we've actually got almost $4,000 carried forward, which could be used for that. In 2025, we actually returned $9,700 to the Council of the North, being our 2024 surplus. We're looking like we're going to have a deficit in 2025, so that won't happen. Also in 2025, there was the General Synod, and the diocese did have costs for meals and accommodation, which again won't happen in 2026. As I said, the transfers to the reserves include Lambeth and General Synod. There's nothing budgeted being transferred into the reserve for our diocesan synod. Those costs will be borne out of the operating budget overall. There is also in the transfers $10,000 into a clergy moving fund. When clergy moves into the diocese or within the diocese, the moving costs are the responsibility of the parish hiring or employing the clergy person. The diocese recognizes that this could be very significant in terms of the amount and could be a real barrier for parishes being able to hire a clergy person. So DEC approved setting aside $10,000 a year until that fund reaches $100,000, and that's included in this transfers to reserve figure. The $16,000 is coming out of money that was set aside for um, our diocesan synod over the last 2 years. So as you can see, the total budgeted expenditures are almost identical between the 2 years, although there are shifts between the categories. In terms of, get back there. In terms of income, we're not expecting any other grants other than from the National Church through the Council of the North. This $71,000 figure was what we were told we could expect at the time the budget was prepared. Since then, at the end of last week, we were informed that that has changed and we can expect to actually receive $75,000, which improves the bottom line a little bit. When I was talking about 2025 income, I said our investments didn't earn quite as much as hoped for, budgeted for 25. The $8,500 might be more, well, is more in line with what has happened in 2025. Budgeted donations are only $500. That's the amount of donations that the diocese has received directly for its general operations. All the other donations received in 2025 were directed for a specific purpose, and they're not budgeted. We can't predict what those might be, and generally they have to be spent on things outside of our operational budget. Rentals from rectories depend on, well, one, the rectories being vacant in the sense of not having clergy in them and actually being rented out. And this is our best estimate for next year. As I said, we are planning a synod for next year. Part of the operation or the synod event includes a delegate registration fee. We've proposed keeping it constant at $100 per delegate, and that is expected to bring in $8,500. The rest of that other income is camp donations to offset the cost. In 2025, we had that $12,000 for the clergy conference, and there was actually $1,000 that had been received in 2024 that was used for the camp in 2025. fair share, we'll talk about in more detail. We're suggesting that the actual request amount from parishes decrease to just under $139,000. And as I said, we'll go through that in a bit more detail in a moment. But that operational budget with costs essentially being the same, but less revenue means the shortfall is higher. Actual numbers may very well come in different than the budget, but this is our best estimate of continuing to do the things we have been doing at the diocesan level with the changes I've noted. Operating at we have money that has been accumulated in the past that can cover the shortfall, but if the shortfalls happen, it draws down the money that we have to invest, which reduces our investment income. So it is not sustainable in the long term. But we're proposing this is the best choice for the diocese at this point in time. Questions, comments, concerns?
Don, are we going to indicate later on what the new rate for travel is this evening?
DEC has not made a decision on that.
Okay.
And I can't predict what DEC will do.
Neither can I.
It has been suggested that the mileage rate increase from 48 cents. We know, or I know, that the national church pays 66 cents per kilometer, but a figure between those two has been discussed, but nothing has been decided at this point in time.
Don, Wanda Lauren has her hand up.
Okay, go ahead.
I might have missed it, but is there any income from Camp Artaban that comes to us?
No. All the income from the camp goes to, I'll call it that society for the operation of the camp. We pay the insurance on that property. But there is no income that it generates for the diocese.
She's put a thumbs up on her.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Is Sarah in Peace River. Does the money that the Artaban Foundation collects for rental and all that stuff, does it is it enough for them to do what they need to do, or would they be able to help with the insurance? And do
I
we
don't have any detailed information on that.
Oh, okay.
We do not, or at least I do not receive any financial reports from the camp.
Well, you should.
My sense is that they are not in a position to pay all or some of the insurance, but I have no hard information to back
And
that.
do we pay for using the camp for the the diocesan camp weekend.
Yes, is a short answer.
That's all the answer I need. Short and sweet.
Yeah, unless Bishop David, you had anything to add to that about Camp Artaban?
No, you said is correct. Camp Artaban is run by a third-party nonprofit society that we have it's at arm's length. We have no direct influence or control on. And we pay the going rate for use of the camp, and they use it typically for keeping the camp up to date and maintained, which I think they've done a good job of. We pay the insurance on the camp. We don't pay anything else. They take care of all the other expenses on the camp.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Just that you mentioned about the CCLI, do we get, don't we have to pay for that for the year?
So
Is this the right place?
starting at the end of 2025, the diocese paid for a diocese-wide license that covers all parishes at a level for most, which is more than what they had in place. The additional cost, if you added all of the parishes' payments together for the diocese-wide license, and my cat just helped me. Just it was $300 more. And as I commented, provides more services than most parishes had in the past. It is not the intent to directly recover that cost from parishes like we do with insurance. We're wrestling with Slave Lake situation because of their three denominations and their constitution and how that will play out. Does that answer your question?
Well, so what are you saying? We're not going to get a bill from you guys? Because we've
That's
been
right.
waiting to pay.
No, there won't be a bill, Brenda, as far as my understanding between the bishop and DEC discussed, is the bishop was that the diocese would pay for this. Predominantly, this started because the bishop, when he goes around to all the parishes, has not had a streaming license in place. So now we've gotten him a streaming license, and in addition, under the umbrella of the streaming license, they were able to bring all of the parishes up underneath that umbrella. And so basically for the cost of having to get the license for the bishop to stream, we got along, we get to ride along on his shirt tails.
Oh, wow, nice, thank you.
Yeah.
But
So
for 2026?
Yes, it's ongoing. As far as I know, the bishop is going to cover the cost. I suppose it will be a budget item that might be discussed year after year after year if it becomes unsustainable. But at this point, it is sustainable. So Benita and I are working on the reporting. It's every 2.5 years we are going to be required to report. So we're coming up with a procedure on how to do that, but we haven't finished it right now. So for now, our suggestion is keep track of what you are playing and put it in a drawer, and we'll let you know when you have to start reporting.
Just a slight clarification, the bishop isn't personally paying. but the diocese is paying.
Yes,
Yeah.
All right,
Because
so
when
just
we
to
had the
clarify,
meeting,
we don't have to budget anything then for 2026.
that's correct.
at the meeting that we had when we were talking about CCLI and all that, Brenda's right. This
I
is
thought we
news
were
to
paying.
us. This is
Yeah.
news to us, and it's
Yeah,
good
I thought we
news.
were just waiting to be told what we were going to pay.
I'm with you, Brenda. This is great news, though. Let's say thank you.
Hey,
$1 million.
absolutely, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, at
I'm not gonna
DEC,
argue.
at DEC, there was some discussion, or either management or DEC, there was some discussion about billing or invoicing parishes for their portion, but it was decided that the bookkeeping administration of that was not warranted and that it would just become part of the diocesan expenditures and support to the parishes. So that small amount, or maybe not small amount, does not have to be budgeted by the parishes or paid directly by the parishes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? So this is the operating budget subject to adjustment based on feedback. And as I said, things like the National Church changing their grant amount, which will come to DEC in a couple of weeks, and for their review, revision, finalization. Are we ready to move on?
I have a question. Terry Francis from Athabasca.
Yes.
Anytime I look at a budget and I see a shortfall, in this case, it's $89,720. And you may have explained this. I'm sorry, I was late getting into the meeting, but I'm sure the diocese is no different than my own personal bank account. If I don't have the money there, I can't spend it. Where is the shortfall going to come from?
So over the history of the diocese, it has operated such that it had surpluses, and those have accumulated to between $200,000 and $300,000. So this surplus, so there is cash, there is money to cover this shortfall, but it is certainly not sustainable. If we if the actual shortfall is the $90,000, we can do it for 3 years, then we're out of money, or at least operating money. Now, the budget for 2025 was looking at a $60,000 shortfall. It looks like we're going to end up with still a shortfall, and it's not insignificant. It's looking like it'll be between $20,000 and $25,000, but it is significantly better than the 2025 budget. But certainly we can't have shortfalls indefinitely. If the actual amounts come in at that $90,000 level, yeah, as I said, there's about 3 years. So one thing that DEC has started to discuss and wrestle with is, what do we need to do to have the diocese sustainable from a financial point of view. I don't want anybody to become focused on money and the shortfall. Yes, it's a legitimate concern, and I worry about it lots. But the church is not about money. It is about ministry, moving or doing our part to see the kingdom of God grow, flourish in this part of the world. And that's very much what I want all of you, all of our parishes to be focused on, trusting not blindly, but trusting that God will provide. We need to be good stewards, absolutely. And people need information to be good stewards, to make appropriate decisions. And that's, in my mind, a big part of what this process is trying to do. Did that answer your question, Terry?
Yes, it did. And I totally agree with you that we need to be focused on ministry, but at the same time, we do have to watch our expenditures.
Yeah.
That's just a sad reality of the world we live in. Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions, comments, concerns?
I apologize. My computer rebooted all of a sudden. I hope it didn't affect the meeting.
It didn't seem to on my end.
Okay, good. Yeah. Continue on then, please. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we're ready to move on. I really do appreciate all of the questions and comments. Yeah. Yeah. So I said we'd talk about fair share. So the diocese has a formula that is intended to have parishes contribute a fair amount to balance the budget. So instead of that $90,000 deficit, it would be showing a zero. This is a really simplified example of how the formula works. So if we only had 2 parishes, and in the first parish, there were 12 identifiable givers. That's people who received a donation receipt. And those receipted donations in that first parish totaled $30,000. In the other parish, there were actually 38 identifiable givers, and they gave that parish $70,000 in donations that receipts were issued for. So if those are the only 2 parishes, the diocese has 50 identifiable givers, and in total, they gave $100,000 in receipted donations. If the diocese said we've got expenditures of $100,000, we've got other income of $65,000, we need $35,000 to balance the budget. For each parish, 2 calculations are made. The first calculation says it has 12 identifiable givers in the parish out of 50 across the diocese, which works out to 24%. And also, their receipted donations totaled $30,000 in that parish out of $100,000 across the diocese, which was 30%. If you take those two figures and average them for parish 1, it works out to 27%. Same type of calculation for parish 2. 38 identical givers out of 50, which is 76%, and $70,000 of donations out of $100,000, which is 70%. Again, averaging those two figures gives you 73%. So the formula says that parish 1's fair share would be 27% of the 35,000, so $9,450. And parish 2's share would be 73% of the 35,000, or $25,550. Does that explanation of the formula, the calculation, make sense, or at least kind of follow how the calculation is being made? So the diocese has information on identifiable givers and receipted donations in your annual parochial return. So our most recent information is from 2024. So when we do that calculation for all of our parishes, we come out with these percentages. And to balance the draft budget, we would need $228,000 or over that, which generates these amounts. For some of the parishes, it may be doable. For others, it is substantially more than they have been able to provide to the diocese in recent years. As I said, we recognize that that is the reality that many parishes are facing, that their costs are increasing, donations, income at the parish level at best is constant, and I'm generalizing. And so for some, these figures are just not possible. And we don't want to distract parishes from doing ministry to raising funds. Absolutely, we need to be good stewards. We need to think about what it means and how we do ministry. But at the diocesan level, for the past couple of years and going into 2026, we've said the formula seems to be fair, but it is not possible. So largely, Bishop David and I came up with amounts that we're suggesting be requested from each parish. It takes into consideration all of the information we have and tries to support the parishes so that they can focus on ministry while recognizing the diocese is part of this world. We need money to operate. If we don't have the money, at some point we will stop being able to do even the scaled down work that has been in place for the past couple of years. I believe costs have been trimmed as much as possible through the hard efforts of lots of people. But it's a reality that we've faced. What I encourage you to do is take these figures for your parish, discuss them with your vestry, and let me or the synod office know if you believe that these are doable, or maybe you can actually do something more than these requests are suggesting. Or, as I said, if it is going to cause a problem, please let us know. That input, as long as I receive it on a timely basis, I'm saying the 21st, which is about a week from now, then it can get reflected in the proposal that goes to DEC for review and discussion at that level. Any questions, comments, concerns about fair share and either the calculation or the requested amounts?
Sarah, I'm just curious as to how you and the bishop sloggled through all the numbers to come up with the numbers that you have for requests. Like some, I mean, I'm assuming it's, there's different prices for running your church in different places. Like Fort Mac is more expensive than Peace River. But I'm kind of curious about Manning. If they were to follow their budgeted, or the amount to balance the budget, it'd be 3,800, and yet you're asking for 6,000, and everybody else you're asking for less, and these guys you're asking for more, almost double. I don't understand.
My comment is that is what they have been able to contribute for several years, and we have no indication that that would change.
Fair. Okay, just curious.
That's my comment. Yeah, I'll shut up about that.
That sounds fair. I just was curious how you was like, oh, a little bit like a quarter of what the budget would require. We're down. Peace River's down about $14,000 from what we would need to contribute to hit budget, and then all of a sudden Manning is like, oh, more. I'm like, yeah. I was just curious. It was confusing to me.
No, that's, I think, a fair observation and question. I believe my comment is accurate.
Don, if you on here, you want Fairview, you want $750 a month. On the previous page, it worked out to $785.83. I presume you won't be dreadfully upset if we send in more than what you have given us. I mean, we may not
The
be able
diocese would be very happy if people could meet the calculated amount, or more. Yeah, if you're contributing a level in 2025 that's higher than these figures and feel capable of continuing at that level, it would support the operation of the diocese as a whole, and is very appreciated. Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to make it hard for bookkeeping purposes for everybody. If you've asked us for something and we give you more, and at the end of the year, you're going, why? I told her to
Well,
send 750 and why?
No, they're
Yeah.
going, thank you.
Yeah. So if you let me know that you're planning to give, I'm making up numbers, $12,000 over the year.
Okay,
As if you tell me that before the 21st, so next week, that I would plan to incorporate into the budget going to DEC. So you would see that again. I just picked 12,000 because I can do the math.
well, we have our vestry meeting on what day is it, girls? What day are we having the meeting? Is it on the 21st? So I might not be able to tell you the night of
Well,
the 1st.
I'll give you to the next day. Yeah, yeah. No.
Okay,
The idea is the sooner you can let me know, the
the better.
more accurate information that can be taken to DEC.
Okay. Thank you.
And pleasant surprises next year are always welcomed.
Indeed. Other questions, comments, concerned about this?
Have we gotten rid, I think we have, but remind me about this. Have we gotten rid of all of the properties that we really shouldn't have to be insuring anymore? I mean, we still actually, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know whether we
So,
can get
so,
rid
so
of them yet, but I
uh,
just worry about us paying insurance on property that's not being used.
so we have not disposed of any properties other than the church in Boyle over the last year. We have adjusted the coverages on all properties to a more appropriate level. For properties that have buildings which are not being used, are becoming decrepit and should be demolished, in my opinion. Um, Insurance coverage generally is for cleanup costs only. Bishop David, you'd have to confirm for me, vacant properties should have some form of liability coverage, because if somebody wandered across the property and tripped and broke their back, we could have a liability just because we are the owner of the property.
That is correct, though vacant properties are currently not insured. We did have a conversation with our broker on that. Cheryl and I did last year, and we acknowledged, and they said, yes, this is an issue. You really should have liability on there, but let's focus on getting the other properties all figured out first as high priority. So that's where we put our focus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And certainly what and how our properties are being used will be part of the discussion around having a sustainable diocese financially.
Thank you.
Anything else at this point?
No, don't.
Leon has his hand up, Don.
Go ahead, Leon.
Yeah, I'm looking at Fort JP1.
Yes.
And I don't know if this figure 1200 is I'm just I don't know, I'm kind of I don't know if this 1200 is would be met by the congregation.
That may be accurate, or other donations towards that parish may be received by the diocese.
Okay.
Yeah, I certainly understand your concern and comment. We could change it, but my personal opinion is I would leave it in the budget.
Okay. Yeah. We'll leave it at that, and we'll see what happens.
I can say, Leon, a year ago, the management committee requested that 1,200 be put in as a minimum for parishes, with the idea that all should be stewarding and contributing to the life of the diocese. So that's why that was put in. So that was also put in last year for Fort Chip and Wapasca.
Okay. Yeah. Clear enough. Thank you.
So our next meeting is December 7th. So I guess we need to let you know before that, right, Don?
Yeah,
can't wait.
DEC will be meeting, is it the 28th, I believe? So before the end of November, DEC will be discussing and should be finalizing a budget for 2026. So if I don't have information before that meeting,
So will you just go on what you're saying that you want us to give? So say for instance, us, if we're okay with 1,400, then you will just go on that,
um,
or you need us to tell
oh,
you.
there. Okay. Yeah. So if the $1,400 a month is a problem for All Saints, I really want to hear that as soon as possible. If you're okay with that level or feel you could handle more, it's not as pressing a concern because if we received more, it would make it easier for the diocese. And as Bishop David said, you know, that type of surprise is appreciated and good news. But if it was felt that no, you could only afford $1,000 a month, that has an impact on the budget. So I'm more concerned about parishes not being able to afford these amounts than being able to contribute more. But if they're able to contribute more, that's a good news thing that DEC would like to hear as well. I kind of waffled around your question, but does it give you what you need?
Well, I mean, I was saying we'll have to probably call an executive meeting and we can discuss it that way.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
Maria?
certainly works.
Okay.
Anything else? So this really concludes the operational budget proposal, which is doing the same things in 2026 without the clergy conference, but having the diocesan synod, and without there being a general synod. So, as I said, status quo in many respects. Yeah, as I said, if you can let me or the synod office know by next week any feedback at all, really, can be reflected in what goes forward to DEC if the information's received. We do, and yeah, so last chance before we move on. Any comments, concerns, suggestions? Not hearing anything. We do have another thing for us to consider. So, Bishop David, our diocesan executive, the committees of our diocesan executive have really worked on getting our insurance coverage in line with what we really need, worked on our regulations and dealing with rebuilding churches and in emergency repairs and other things, as well as supporting ministry in different ways. But at a diocesan level, we've been really at bare bones. And that does have consequences. And Bishop David has identified these three major consequences. Not enough attention being paid to staffing, having clergy in place. Connected with that, but not the same as that, is not enough attention being paid to ministry. While that certainly has been something that certainly Bishop David, myself, DEC, has stressed that our focus needs to be on ministry, but there's room for improvement in that area. And then the other area which I've alluded to is how do we look to the diocese continuing into the future, which really means looking at how we become financially self-sufficient. And right now, we don't have the time, energy, people to address any of those things. I am really worried about having Bishop David, Benita, our stipendiary clergy burnout, which would be a disaster because we've got nobody that we can fall back onto. Many parishes don't have stipendiary paid clergy, and that includes our cathedral, St. James in Peace River. So DEC is proposing that a person be hired full-time. They would work with Bishop David, the diocesan administrative assistant, as diocesan dean and archdeacon half-time, and they would work half-time as the rector of the parish of St. James. To be fair to the person coming in to this position, as well as giving reasonable time for this ministry to be successful, it would be a 3-year commitment. The funding for this position would essentially come half from the cathedral, the other half from diocesan reserves. The diocese does pay the responsibility allowance as diocesan dean, which is why the diocese portion of these direct costs is higher. The proposal would take the money that has been realized from the sale of properties over the years, including most recently St. Paul's in Boyle. This money has certainly generated investment income, which has gone back into that reserve. And that reserve has been used for assisting ministry in various ways in recent years, not solely related to property, but a number of years ago, the reserve is called the Property Replacement Reserve, but DEC changed and broadened the permissible uses of that money to enhance ministry or provide for support to ministry. And certainly this proposal fits that broader use or permitted use. The other cost that this proposal has is that the cathedral parish would provide housing in terms of for that person, which would be an additional cost to that parish.
And would also result in less money coming in for rentals to the diocese, because currently the majority of the rental income goes to the diocese as is appropriate. We retain just enough to pay the maintenance and that kind of stuff. So it does reflect a bit.
That is already factored into the rental income in the proposed operating budget.
I wondered why it was lower. Okay, cool.
But you're right. If there was no rector or incumbent at the cathedral, they could continue to rent out the deanery, which means that the parish would not, all things being what they should, would not pay for property taxes on the rectory, which comes out of the rental income, would not pay for the insurance on the deanery, again, comes out of the rental. Utilities for the deanery should be paid by the tenants, which, if you put a clergy person in there, becomes a responsibility of the cathedral. But absolutely, the income that presently is going to the diocese would go away. But that is already reflected in the budget proposal. Any thoughts on whether this is a good idea, something we need to do, a good way to fund it? Anything around this proposal?
Well, in my mind's eye, I think we have to do this, because I too am worried that we're going to burn the bishop out, burn yourself out, burn Leon out, burn, like we can't, I think we have the bar set pretty high. We want it all, but we don't want to have to pay for it. And unfortunately, that's not the way it's going to have to work. So I think we're going to have to step out in faith and take on that 3-year commitment, and now,
Yeah,
having said that, we have stepped out in faith many times and had to rein ourselves in. So I'm not sure what the answer is, but I just see that if we don't do something, the long-term continuation of the entire diocese is at risk, not just the continuation of each of our individual parishes. That's just my thought.
Why
and
are you
to-
only considering 3 years? Just curious.
well, if we're taking $50,000 out of our reserves, that reduces our investment income. We do have over $500,000 in the property replacement reserve at this point in time. But if we take $120,000, $150,000 out of that, it's something that we need to reevaluate at that point in time, in my opinion. It certainly could continue longer, but I would not want to make a longer commitment. We could. Yeah, now, and this has to be in agreement with the cathedral parish, and I'm not directly involved in that conversation. So I can't comment on their thoughts.
I can.
Sure.
We suggested it as a vestry,
Well,
as something to consider, because we are not able to pay a full-time minister at this point.
was there any discussion at the parish level about how long a commitment?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
No, because the future is like, right?
Yeah, no, that, so because of both the I don't like the way I'm going to phrase it, but because of the uncertainty around both parish and diocesan finances, I don't think it is responsible to take on a longer commitment. But if I was a person considering moving into this position, I would not give it serious consideration if it was on a year-to-year basis. So the 3-year commitment was partly intended to be fair to the person considering the position. And you're absolutely right. The cathedral parish did bring the framework for this proposal to the diocese, which we've beat around a bit, but yeah. So I've heard at least one comment saying, yes, it's something we need to do. You know, just like the operational shortfall is not something that is sustainable in the long term. At a diocesan level, pulling the money out of diocesan reserves, yeah, it can go on for actually longer than the operating shortfalls, but it's not a long-term sustainable approach. In my opinion, it's appropriate over the 3 years, but at the end of that time, it needs to be reevaluated in terms of how it is going to be funded, if nothing else.
When we brought our priest that was shared by Grimshaw, Berwin, and ourselves and Manning, the hope was that our, that our revenue would increase because our donations would increase because there would be more people coming. That didn't necessarily come to fruition for us. And so then we were at the point where for 3 years I was drawing down on our reserves, and we made the decision we could no longer sustain that. So that 3 years, if you're going to get somebody to come in, you pretty well, like you say, have to guarantee them employment and not necessarily just guarantee them employment, but give them the chance to build the relationships in your communities to potentially bring more people in to the fold, right? So it does need to be reviewed. We reviewed it every year, and of course I was Miss Doom and Gloom, Miss Storm Crow, I call myself, and but it is what it is, and you do have to step out in faith and give God time to get the plan working, along with a little help from us. But ultimately, it's his will as to whether it's going to work or not.
Yeah, I've got no disagreement with anything you've said. Yeah, and as I suggested, DC has to look at what we can do to make our finances better. But anything that we've even floated a trial balloon around will not be a short-term impact. All of the things that we've thought of will take time to be put in place. So this proposal covers a period of time to help us move forward.
Doesn't make it any easier when we're looking at the shortfall that we're looking at. It's like my husband's eyebrows went up when I was going over. He says, "Oh, just no problem at all, Tam. I'm sure we'll be able to rustle up that kind of money for you." He's always after me for spending too much money. I can't understand why.
Well, sometimes we need those people. But
I
in
don't think
terms of
Brian and Terry agree with you. I can tell by Brian's look on his face.
but in terms of our diocesan operating budget, I don't know what more we can cut or try to control. We've diocesan executive Benita as administrative assistant, Bishop David has put lots of effort into trying to bring down and control our costs. But that has had consequences. We're not wanting to be throwing money away by any stretch, but I believe bringing a person in can help the diocese or may help the diocese in many different ways. And that's why this proposal is here.
So what are you wanting from us, Dawn, tonight with regards to this proposal?
As I said, all of this is going to go to DEC. So if somebody thinks this is foolhardy and we absolutely should not be even thinking about doing that, we should hear that. If people think it should be paid for in a different way, I'm all open to suggestions. DEC very definitely directed me that trying to provide for the diocesan dean and archdeacon as part of our operational budget was not a way to go, which is why it's been split out with the diocesan portion intended to come out of reserves. So, yeah, and which was not something I considered when I first brought it to DEC or presented it to DEC. So trying to be listening and responsive to people's ideas, suggestions, concerns. So what I would ideally like is either knowing people are opposed to this direction or saying, yes, this is a good direction and the best way to fund it at this point in time. And it could be somewhere in between, but yeah.
I think if there's no other comments, maybe we just go through the next two slides, Don, and thank people.
Sure. So again, if there's feedback, provide it to the Synod office by the 21st so it can get reflected in what does go forward to DEC. Yeah, very much appreciate the questions, the comments. This is your last opportunity tonight to make more comments or suggestions.
Dawn,
But
I'd just like to say, this is Dina from St. Andrew Zion Parish of the Northern Lights. I really appreciate all that you did, and I thought you presented it in a very good, understandable way, and I really appreciate that. And I personally think it's a good way to move forward, but help all of us to, yeah, to not make it too hard for the parishes and to try to get us out of this period of time. I look forward to what God's going to do over the next 3 years.
amen. And certainly, if you do think of something or you have questions, you can get a hold of me. You can work through the Synod office. Yeah, and that's true over the next week, but into the future as well. Yeah, as the slide says, may God bless each one of us greatly as together we follow him. And let each one of us experience and share Christ in all circumstances and to all people, so that the family of Christ, the kingdom of God, is further established. Amen. And
Can I
Thank
just ask a quick
everyone.
question? Oh.
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I forgot that I had made a note here about, you mentioned about the insurance and increasing, like budgeting for another 10%. Because last year we budgeted for 10%, but it ended up being more like a 23% increase. Is that going to possibly happen again? Or because that will make a difference in regards to
Everything else.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So today I saw that the insurance broker is hoping to have things in place very soon.
Yeah, because we didn't get it till late last year.
Oh, it was really, really late last year.
Yeah.
So the intent is much more timely. That 10% figure is the best information I have today. But last year, some of the changes in rate compared for 25 compared to 24 was getting both levels of coverage and types of coverage into more appropriate situations.
Yeah.
So I would not expect that same type of change, but I've got no.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Bishop David, unless you wanted to close for us, I was going to ask Father Leon to close.
I think that would be great if Father Leon would like to close us with a prayer. That'd be wonderful.
Okay. Let us pray. The Lord be with you. Lord Christ, we give you praise and thanks for your presence with us throughout this conversation about our diocesan budget. You have blessed us with wisdom, patience, and understanding as we sought to discern your will. We recognize that every parish faces its own unique challenges in stewardship and budgeting. Yet we trust that you will walk alongside us on this journey. We thank you for Reverend Dawn's leadership and for everyone who took part in this meeting. And as we conclude in the go our separate ways, may your Holy Spirit strengthen and guide us in the days ahead. In your most holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, all of you, for a very engaging conversation and question. And thank you, Dawn, for all the hard work and the presentation.